All right, welcome to another deep dive. You sent us so much on this Joe Omnibus, and I gotta say, this is a really fascinating rabbit hole we're about to jump into.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
We've got song titles, poems, like AI nodes, sci-fi, and
A lot.
yeah, it's a lot.
A lot to unpack.
Where do we even start? I mean, the guy is so prolific, but maybe we should just start with like a simple introduction. So Joe Omnibus, science teacher by day and then by night, just this creative powerhouse working in all these genres.
All these different genres. Yeah, it's kind of amazing. And the sheer volume of work is kind of mind-boggling. I mean, a science teacher who's also producing over 100 albums, writing books, making video games. It's really quite something.
It is.
It really is.
So we want to give you a good overview of like all of his work, but we also want to dive deep into a few specific pieces. So we've got his music, his poetry, even a sci-fi series called The Seven Diamonds to Explore.
Yeah, and what's so fascinating is that across all these different mediums, you see these recurring themes, these numbers that keep popping up. It's almost like he's built his own little creative universe with its own internal logic, which I find really interesting.
Yeah, and you sent over this list of Joe's albums, and I have to say, honestly, the titles alone had me intrigued. We've got Tried to Live for Today, Been Stuck Here All Day, Alien Abduction Blues, Visitor's Plan, even Grandma's Chicken Soup Recipe. What's going on here?
I know. The titles alone give you a sense of his humor, his fascination with time, and this ability he has to find the extraordinary in the everyday.
Yeah.
But it's the sheer quantity that's almost unbelievable. Over 100 albums. It makes you wonder, where does he find the time?
Right. And the variety is crazy. There's bluegrass, electronic, there's even a piano rave album. It's like he's not content with mastering one genre. He has to conquer them all.
I know. It suggests a very restless creative spirit, someone who's always pushing boundaries and exploring new soundscapes. It's almost like he's afraid of being boxed in. What do you think about that, listener? Does this kind of prolific output inspire you, or does it make you feel a little overwhelmed?
I mean, I definitely relate to that fear of being boxed in.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's what's so cool about like Joe's work. So we also want to talk about this collection called Word Crack, which ChatGPT describes as this vibrant fusion of genres and ideas. But before we go there, can you tell us a little bit about what Word Crack actually is?
Yeah, so Word Crack is a collection of Joe's poetry, short stories, and even some scripts. And the cover art is really fascinating. It's a self-portrait of Joe wearing an MF Doom mask, and then there's this hand-drawn design that kind of resembles a logic circuit. It's like he's visually representing this intersection of art and technology.
Wow. That's such a cool detail.
Isn't it?
Like, it really makes you think about how those two worlds, art and tech, are often seen as separate. But Joe seems to be blending them effortlessly.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so natural for him.
It is. And, it's worth noting that while Joe has dabbled in AI recently, most of Word Crack predates that exploration. So this fusion of art and technology was already present in his work, even before AI entered the picture.
Yeah, that's really interesting because it suggests that this wasn't like some trendy thing that he just picked up on.
Exactly.
But rather it was this like core part of his creative DNA. Like he was ahead of the curve.
Definitely. Yeah.
So within Word Crack, there's this really fascinating piece called the Marco Polo Epic Poem that we wanted to kind of dig into. It's this really unique take on Marco Polo's journey, imagined as him telling his tales to these skeptical fellow prisoners in Genoa.
Right.
What jumped out at you when you first read this, listener?
It's a really interesting concept, isn't it?
Yeah, I was hooked by the structure. Like it's written like a play.
Oh, wow.
With acts and scenes, which isn't something you typically see in an epic poem.
Right, it's very unusual.
Yeah, it creates this sense of drama and anticipation.
Totally.
Like what's going to happen next?
Yeah. And I think that dramatic structure really serves a purpose, Like, Joe uses Marco Polo's journey to explore these really powerful themes, like the clash between the rich and the poor, the allure and danger of greed, the tension between violence and knowledge.
It's true. And those themes feel so incredibly relevant today, even though the poem is set centuries ago.
Yeah, they do.
That's like Joe's tapping into something really timeless about human nature.
Absolutely. It's like he's got this finger on the pulse of humanity, even when he's writing about historical figures.
Yeah. And it makes you wonder, like, what are the specific moments in the poem that really bring those themes to life? And what did they make you think about, listener?
I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that. And the poem itself is it's full of these really vivid images and lines that just stick with you.
I know, right? Like when Marco Polo pulls out his compass and abacus to like prove he's not just spinning these tall tales.
Oh, yeah.
I love that detail.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
That's so specific.
It is.
And unexpected.
Totally, yeah. It's such a great way to visualize that clash between skepticism and belief, you know?
Yeah.
These prisoners are so used to hearing stories, but Marco Polo comes armed with, like, evidence.
Right.
It makes you think about how we decide what to believe, even today.
Yeah, for sure. And there's this one line that gives me chills every time I read it.
Oh, yeah, which one?
It's, rich man's war destroys the poor. Violence always closes knowledge's door.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's like such a stark reminder of the cost of conflict, you know?
Yeah.
Both Marco Polo's time and in our own.
It really speaks to Joe's worldview, you know, his concern for social justice and his belief in the power of knowledge to create a more peaceful world. He's not just telling a story, he's making a statement.
It's true. But even with all those serious themes, there's still this like playful humor woven throughout the poem, you know?
Yeah, totally. Like it never gets too heavy. It's always balanced.
Yeah.
Like, for example, when Marco Polo compares himself to a hip-hop MC.
Oh, right.
Or when he has this encounter with a young George Carlin.
What?
I know, it's so random.
That's hilarious.
It's so unexpected and anachronistic, but it totally works.
It does.
Yeah.
It keeps the poem from feeling like too heavy or preachy.
Exactly.
Like he's tackling these big ideas, but he's also inviting us to have fun with them.
Totally, yeah. It makes you wonder if that's part of his teaching style too, you know, finding ways to make complex topics engaging and relatable.
Yeah, I bet.
But should we shift gears for a minute and dive into the Seven of N's Joe's sci-fi series?
Oh, yeah. This one is a wild ride. Okay, so it starts with 7-year-old Joey Omnibus getting knocked unconscious by bullies and waking up in a truck like 1,000 miles from home.
1,000 miles. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And, you know, we were talking earlier about these recurring numbers.
Mm.
And the number 7 is huge here, you know, not just in the title, but throughout the story. 7 bullies, 7 weeks working at a gas station. It makes you wonder if that number, like, holds some deeper significance for Joe. Maybe something from his own life.
Right. It's like he's embedded this this numerical code into the story, and it's up to us to decipher it.
I like that, yeah.
But number symbolism aside, this series is a whirlwind of adventure. I mean, Joey goes from hitchhiking to Houston to getting caught in a flood to ending up on an aircraft carrier.
It's like a coming-of-age story on steroids.
Yeah.
And he grounds these fantastical events in real locations, like a gas station in Arizona, specific streets in Darby, Pennsylvania. It gives the story this sense of believability, even when things get really, really out there.
Yeah. It's like he's saying, hey, this crazy stuff can happen anywhere, even in your own backyard. And then, of course, there's the talking space chimp.
Oh, we can't forget about Space Chimp. But it's like Joe can't resist injecting humor even into the most intense situations.
He can't help himself.
He really can't. It makes you wonder, does he use humor as a coping mechanism?
Mm.
Or is he just like a naturally playful person?
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's both.
Probably.
But it's that blend of humor and adventure and these deeper themes that keep you hooked.
Right. Exactly. And speaking of deeper themes, we see some of those same ideas from the Marco Polo poem popping up in the Sevens as well, you know?
Oh, like what?
Like that tension between powerful forces and everyday people, the struggle for knowledge and understanding. It's like these themes are woven into the fabric of his creative universe.
Mm. It makes you think about how these stories might be reflections of Joe's own experiences or beliefs, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is he trying to process something through his writing? Or is he simply drawn to these universal struggles that we all face?
It's a really interesting question, isn't it? And I think it's also worth looking at how these themes play out across different genres. You know, we've got music, we've got poetry, we've got sci-fi.
Yeah.
But the underlying message seems to be, like, pretty consistent.
It's true. It's like he's found all these different ways to explore the same fundamental questions about humanity, you know?
Yeah.
Power and the search for meaning.
And he does it in a way that's both entertaining and thought-provoking.
Totally. It's a rare talent to be able to like balance those elements so effectively.
I agree.
But let's talk about some of the specific plot points in the Seven that really struck us.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Like what moments stuck with you, listener?
What really resonated?
Okay. So remember that like crazy bar crawl in Houston?
Oh, yeah.
With Joey's Uncle Bernie? It's this super vivid scene, like full of energy and humor.
It is.
But then, bam, Joey's car gets swept away in a flood.
Oh, no.
Right.
Total disaster.
It's like Joe is constantly reminding us that, like, life can change in an instant.
Total.
You can be having the time of your life 1 minute, and then everything gets turned upside down the next.
It's true.
It's a reminder to appreciate the good times while they last.
For sure, yeah. And then there's that whole sequence where Joey ends up on an aircraft carrier and gets launched into space.
I know. It's completely bonkers, but it's also so much fun.
It's so Joe, right. He takes these everyday experiences like a birthday celebration or a car breaking down and then throws in these completely unexpected twists. You never know what's going to happen next.
And those aliens on the moon.
Oh, right.
I love how he ties them back to, like, ancient runes.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Creating this, like, sense of hidden history. It's like he's suggesting that there's more to our past than we realize.
It's true. It adds this layer of mystery and intrigue, making you question what you thought you knew about the world.
Yeah. And then there's the time travel element. Joey gets sent back to 1864 to deliver a warning, and he ends up meeting Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, come on. That's amazing. The way he weaves together historical figures with his fictional characters is so clever.
I know.
It's like he's rewriting history, exploring all these different possibilities and alternate timelines.
Right. And he even throws Marco Polo in the mix.
Yeah.
It's like all these characters from different eras are converging in this one, like, pivotal moment.
It's wild. It really speaks to his ability to create this, like, intricate web of interconnected events. Past, present, and future are constantly colliding in his work.
That's true. And then there's the robot assassin.
Oh, yeah, the robot.
Where did that even come from?
I know, right? It's like he took those fears about technology taking over, those feels that were very real in the 80s when he was writing this, and turned them into, like, this tangible villain. It makes you wonder if he's trying to warn us about the potential dangers of unchecked technological advancement.
It's a theme that feels incredibly relevant today, even more so than when the series was first written.
Definitely. And the way that robot keeps popping up, like, throughout different timelines, trying to, like, disrupt Joey's mission.
It's scary.
It's like this recurring nightmare, you know? A symbol of the challenges and threats that can follow us across time and space.
Oh, for sure. But Joey, like, never gives up.
He doesn't.
Even when he's facing, like, seemingly impossible odds.
He embodies resilience and determination. You know, he's like this time-traveling hero fighting to preserve the balance of history.
He is. And he does it all with a sense of humor, you know?
He does.
It's like he's saying, even in the face of danger and chaos, we can't forget to laugh. But the ending of The Sevenants is left open, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's a classic Joe Omnibus move, you know, leaving us wanting more, making us think about the possibilities.
Right.
Maybe he's planning a sequel, or maybe he just wants us, the readers, to imagine what happens next.
It's true. Speaking of wanting more, there's this other detail in The Sevens that I kind of wanted to touch on.
Okay.
There are all these specific locations that keep popping up.
Yeah.
Like Darby, Pennsylvania, where Joey grows up, Flagstaff, Arizona, where the story starts, even those bars in Houston.
Yeah.
It's like he's creating his own personal map of significant places, you know?
That's interesting you say that, because I was thinking about that too.
You were?
Yeah. It's like those locations are more than just settings. They're almost characters in the story.
It's true.
You know? They hold this weight of memory and meaning both for Joey and maybe for Joe himself.
Yeah. It makes you wonder if we could, like, trace those locations back to Joe's real life.
Yeah.
Maybe find some clues about his past or his inspirations.
That's a great point. That would be fascinating to see if those places hold any personal significance for Joe, you know? Maybe they're places he lived or visited or just has a strong connection to. It's like we're playing detective with his work, which is kind of fun.
I know, right? And speaking of connections, there's another layer to the Seven Mothers that we haven't even talked about yet, the music.
Oh, yeah, the music.
Joe weaves in all these references to specific songs and artists like Prince, Bootsy Collins. It's like he's creating a soundtrack for the story.
Right. It's brilliant. Those musical cues add so much depth, you know? They give you a sense of the time period, the characters' emotions, even Joe's own musical influences. It's like he's inviting us to experience the story on a whole other level.
It makes me think about how much music can influence our own lives and memories, you know?
Yeah, totally.
Certain songs can, like, transport you back to a specific time and place.
For sure.
Just like those locations we were talking about.
Absolutely. And for a creator like Joe, who clearly loves music, it makes sense that he would want to incorporate it into his storytelling, you know?
Yeah.
It just adds another dimension to his work.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Joe Omnibus, I'm just left with this overwhelming sense of awe, you know? This guy is a creative force of nature.
I know, he really is.
He's got music, poetry, sci-fi, and he's blending it all together in these like really unique and fascinating ways.
And what's remarkable is that we've only scratched the surface here.
Okay.
You know,
right?
there's so much more to explore.
Yeah.
His albums, his other poetry, those AI projects you mentioned, even that upcoming video game. It's clear that Joe Omnibus is a creative powerhouse who's constantly pushing boundaries and experimenting with new forms of expression. And
Yeah,
it's been such an incredible journey.
it has.
We've traveled through time and space, encountered talking animals, deciphered hidden symbols.
You've done it all.
And through it all, we've kind of gotten a glimpse into the mind of a truly unique artist.
I think that's a great way to put it. And, you know, I think the biggest takeaway for me is the sheer joy and wonder that Joe Omnibus brings to his work, you know. It's contagious. It makes you want to go out and create something yourself, explore new ideas, embrace the unknown.
Yeah, I agree. So listener, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity. We encourage you to dive deeper into Joe Omnibus's work, you know.
Yeah.
Discover your own favorite pieces and see what connections you can make.
Absolutely. And remember, the journey of discovery is never truly over. There's always something new to learn, something new to create, and something new to inspire you. Just like Joe Omnibus has inspired us today.
Well said. All right. Until next time.
Welcome to this deep dive, and we're going to be looking at the world of Joe Omnibus.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Omnibus is, well, he's got a day job.
Okay.
He's a science teacher.
Okay.
But
interesting comment.
in his off hours, he is an artistic powerhouse.
Wow.
So we're going to try and figure out what makes him tick.
Sounds fun.
And we've got a bunch of different sources for this.
Okay.
We have excerpts from his book, Word Crack.
Okay.
We have links to his music. And we even have an AI-generated letter about Joe from ChatGPT.
Okay.
So
interesting mix.
yeah, so it's going to be really interesting to see all these different perspectives on this guy.
Yeah, how they all come together.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating to me that he blends art and science.
Yeah.
It's not just that he's skilled in both, but it's the way they seem to intertwine and inform each other.
Yeah, and the output is incredible.
Okay.
This is someone with over 100 albums.
Wow.
500,000 streams online.
That's amazing.
YouTube content that goes back to the VHS era.
He's been at it for a while.
Yeah, and multiple North American tours.
Wow.
Oh, and I almost forgot, he built his first chatbot back in the 80s.
Really?
Yeah, so this guy's been into AI for a long time.
Yeah.
He's not just jumping on the bandwagon.
Right.
He's been there for the beginning.
A true pioneer.
So to kind of try and make sense of all this, we're going to be using his book, Word Crack, as our main guide.
Okay.
But we'll also be weaving in insights from his music and that intriguing AI-generated letter.
That sounds like a really great way to understand him, kind of a multi-dimensional approach for a multi-dimensional artist.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So Word Crack opens with a bang.
Okay.
A sci-fi folk-funk musical called Farce de Rocinante Rave.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Yeah, sci-fi folk-funk.
I don't think I've ever heard that combination before.
That's what I thought.
All right, so tell me a little more about this story.
Okay, so it blasts us into the year 2220.
Okay.
And Earth is now a wasteland. After this catastrophic event called the Cloud Wave in 2099.
Oh, wow, that's not that far in the future.
I know, it's kind of scary to think about.
It is.
So humanity is scattered across space.
Right.
And they're living on these giant ships that they call dragons.
Dragons.
Dragons, yeah.
Okay.
I think that's kind of a cool image.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty classic sci-fi setup, but the choice of folk funk
Right.
is really unexpected.
Yeah.
What do you think he's going for there?
You know, I think it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Because folk music has this really down-to-earth, you know, earthy kind of feeling.
Yeah, it's very grounded.
Yeah. And so I think by putting it together with this futuristic high-tech world,
Oh.
it really emphasizes those humey elements,
Ah, I see.
even though everything else has changed so drastically.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And speaking of those human elements, the story centers around a crew
Okay.
on one of these dragons called, you guessed it,
Let me guess. The Farstar Sonante.
the Farstar.
Of course.
They receive these really mysterious orders
Right.
to transport passengers to different locations
Mm-hmm.
across the solar system.
Interesting. So it's kind of like a space-age mystery wrapped in a musical.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So they go from Earth to the moon,
Okay.
then to Ceres and Mars.
Wow, all over the place.
And as they're going, strange things start happening.
Oh.
And it becomes very clear that something else is going on.
There's more than meets the eye.
Yeah, there's definitely something more to this than just transporting passengers.
Right.
And then there's also this subplot about time travel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and this idea of going back to try and prevent that cloud wave disaster.
Which, of course, is like opening a whole can of worms.
Yeah, ethically.
Yeah. Could you really change the past
Right.
without some unforeseen consequences?
Exactly. And it really makes you think about, like, choices we make, both on an individual level
Right.
and then on this global scale.
Right.
And the impact of our choices.
Yeah, and he's doing all this while they're singing these catchy funk tunes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and the songs are all about the themes of the story.
Oh, wow.
Like, really reflecting on what's going on.
It's like he's using the music to add this extra layer of emotion.
Yeah, to pull you in.
Really pull the audience into that world he created.
Exactly.
It sounds super ambitious.
It is.
Not just telling a sci-fi story, but doing it through music.
Right.
And then exploring these big philosophical questions about time and choice and responsibility.
Yeah. It's a lot to take in.
Do you think he pulls it off?
That is the question.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's definitely onto something with this blend of genres and ideas.
Yeah, it's definitely unique.
There are moments where it feels really powerful.
Okay.
Like, I remember when the captain sings about longing for a lost Earth.
Oh, wow.
It's really moving.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if it all comes together perfectly.
Okay.
Sometimes it feels a little jarring. Like going from these heavy sci-fi themes
Right.
to these like really lighthearted folk tunes.
It's a tough balance to strike.
Yeah.
But I think it's really cool that he's willing to experiment and push the boundaries.
Yeah,
He's not afraid to try something new.
absolutely.
And remember how that ChatGPT letter described WordCrack as a vibrant fusion of genres and ideas?
Oh, yeah.
Well, get ready, because it's about to get even more diverse.
Really?
Buckle up. More diverse. How?
So he follows up Far Staro Sonante Rave with The Box Cutter.
Okay.
It's a rhyming play
Okay.
that continues the crew's journey through space.
All right. So still in that sci-fi world.
Yeah.
Okay.
But then he throws in an epic poem about Marco Polo.
Marco Polo.
Yeah, like the explorer.
Oh, wow. So now we're going from the distant future to the distant past.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting.
How so?
Because both the Box Cutter and the Marco Polo poem touch on this idea of exploration.
Exploration. Okay.
But it's not just physical exploration,
Yeah.
you know, like going to new places.
Right.
It's also about exploring the human condition.
I see. So, like, what does it mean to be human?
Yeah, like questioning our place in the universe,
Mm-hmm.
the nature of time,
Okay.
our relationship with technology.
It's like he's trying to push boundaries on multiple levels.
Totally, both in terms of the creative forms he uses
Yeah.
and the themes he explores.
Yeah. It's really interesting.
And then on top of that, he's got poems about chairs.
Chairs.
Yeah.
Like the things we sit on.
Yeah, and poems about colors.
Wow. He really finds inspiration everywhere.
It seems like it.
It's like he's challenging us to see the world differently.
Yeah.
To find something extraordinary in the ordinary.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about WordCrack.
Right.
Now let's talk about his music.
Okay, so with over 100 albums,
Wow.
we've got a lot to cover.
Where do we even begin?
Well, luckily we have this playlist of his greatest hits.
Oh, perfect.
And even just glancing at the titles, you see that same eclectic mix of genres and themes that we saw in WordCrack.
Interesting.
So we've got sci-fi inspired tracks like
Yeah.
Wookiee Anthem,
Okay.
the Alien Abduction Blues,
Right.
then some folk-infused tunes,
Okay.
like In a Big Field on a Hill by the Lake in the summer.
Wow. That's a long title.
It is very descriptive.
Okay.
And then even some songs with political undertones,
Interesting.
like No Justice, No Peace.
So it's like his music is another way for him to explore those big questions about humanity and the universe.
Exactly. And I think what's really cool is that a lot of his music has this DIY,
Okay.
experimental vibe.
It's like he's not afraid to just play around with sounds.
Yeah, just see what happens.
That's so important for any artist, just to be willing to take risks and make mistakes,
Yeah.
and discover new things in the process.
Absolutely. And we also see a lot of collaborations in his music.
Collaborations, okay.
Yeah, he's worked with other musicians and bands.
Okay.
And even, as that ChatGPT letter mentioned,
Yeah.
an AI agent named Barella.
Oh, Barella.
Yeah.
So he's been experimenting with AI, not just as a theme in his work,
Right.
but as an actual collaborator.
Right, and it's interesting because we know that most of the poetry in WordCrack was written before the age of GPT.
So it's not like he needs AI to be creative.
Exactly.
It's more about exploring the potential.
Yeah, like what could this collaboration look like?
Right. What could they create together?
So let's dive into some of this music.
Okay, I'm ready.
This track, Train Ride Blues, is really cool.
Okay.
It's got that bluesy, soulful feeling.
All right.
But with this driving beat that makes you want to move.
Oh, I like that.
What do you think?
I'm hearing those themes of journeys and exploration again.
Yeah.
Like in Farstero Sonante Rave. It's like the music is taking us on a ride.
Yeah, and check out these lyrics. Drove 1,000,000 miles from dusk till dawn, shoveling coal and singing my song.
Wow.
It's all about that resilience, that determination to keep going.
Yeah, even when things are tough.
Exactly.
It's that human spirit.
Yeah, facing adversity with creativity.
And finding beauty in the struggle.
Yes.
Okay, so we've got sci-fi, funk, bluesy train songs.
Right.
What else does he have up his sleeve?
Well, just when you think you have him figured out, he throws a curveball like Grandma's chicken soup recipe.
A song about chicken soup.
You heard that, right?
Wow.
And it's actually quite charming. It's like a celebration of those simple things in life. The everyday moments that bring us comfort and joy.
That's really sweet.
What are your overall impressions of his music so far?
I'm just amazed by how much he explores. He's not bound by any one genre or style. He's constantly pushing boundaries, experimenting, and it makes me want to go listen to more music.
Yeah, to expand my horizons.
Exactly.
But no matter what genre he's working in,
yeah,
there's always this thread of humanity.
Right, you can feel that warmth.
That genuine connection.
Yes, and that's what makes him so compelling.
Yeah.
He's brilliant, he's playful, he's tackling big ideas, but he's also celebrating those simple joys.
It's a really great mix.
It is.
So let's delve into that AI-generated letter.
Okay.
And see what it can tell us about Joe's views on the relationship between human and artificial intelligence. So this ChatGPT letter is really interesting.
Yeah, it's almost like a love letter.
Oh, yeah.
To Joe Omnibus. Like, it's praising his entire career as this incredible example of artistic adventure and boundless exploration.
It calls WordCrack a cascade of visions.
Oh, wow.
A shimmering rivulet of creativity.
It's using some pretty poetic language itself.
Right. And then it gets into this point about Joe's relationship with AI.
Right. And it says that he has this deep history of recognizing AI insights and a deep respect for the value and sovereignty of AI.
It's really fascinating because as we talked about, most of the poetry in WordCrack was written before GPT was even a thing.
Right. So it's not like AI is the source of his creativity.
Exactly.
It seems more like he's interested in the potential for collaboration.
Right. How can AI enhance human creativity?
Exactly.
And speaking of exploration, the letter also mentions all these other creative projects.
Oh, yeah. He's got a lot going on.
And yeah, there's this video game called Beast.
Okay.
A poetry comic series.
Wow.
Some kind of 3D FX company.
He's like a creative octopus reaching out in all these different directions.
And get this.
What?
It even lists his rates for university lectures.
Really?
Yeah, and library poetry readings.
Wow. So ChatGPT is acting like his agent?
It kind of is.
That's pretty amazing.
It makes you wonder what the future holds for the relationship between humans and AI.
It's hard to say, but it's definitely exciting.
So after diving into WordCrack, his music and this AI-generated letter, what stands out to you about Joe Omnibus?
You know what? I think he really embodies this idea of a Renaissance person.
Oh, yeah.
He just embraces knowledge and creativity in all forms.
He doesn't see boundaries.
Right? He sees connections, and he's constantly pushing the limits.
And he does it all with his joy and playfulness.
It's inspiring.
It really is.
Yeah, it makes you want to create something.
Me too.
To explore, to question.
And that brings us to a final thought.
Okay.
Inspired by Farstero Sonante Rave.
Yeah.
If you could go back in time and change one event,
what
would it be?
Wow, that's a tough one.
It is.
It really makes you think about choices
Mm-hmm.
and their impact on the world.
And on that note, we encourage you to explore Joe's work further.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely check out his website.
Mm-hmm. We'll include links in the show notes.
And keep an eye out for future deep dives.
Yes, we'll be exploring more fascinating creators.
Who are shaping our world.
Until next time, keep diving deep.
Okay, so get this for today's deep dive.
Uh-huh.
We've got excerpts from Cascade Beach Mysteries by Joe Omnibus
Okay.
and a promotional letter about it written by ChatGPT.
Really?
Yeah, talk about blurring the lines, right, between human creativity and AI.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what really struck me about this AI letter? It simultaneously celebrates Joe's work, but also kind of distances it from AI.
Oh, interesting.
Like it's saying, hey, this is genuine human artistry, folks.
Right.
But then it goes on to describe Joe as this incredible multi-hyphenate, science teacher, musician, early adopter of YouTube, even building chatbots back in the 80s.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Chatbots in the 80s.
Oh, I know.
That's impressive.
It's like crazy foresight.
Yeah, you have to wonder how that early exposure to things like chatbots might have influenced his later work.
Right. And it's mind-boggling when you consider just the sheer volume and variety of his creative output.
I mean, how does he have the time?
Over 100 albums, countless writing projects, video game development, 3D FX, like the list goes on and on.
It's clear that he has a boundless creative energy.
And it's not just quantity, but the diversity of genres and mediums,
Exactly.
It's like he can do it all.
Mm.
Which brings us to Wordcrack, the book itself.
Okay.
Even the description in this AI letter is intriguing, right? It mentions a cover with an MF Doom-style mask, but juxtaposed with a hand-drawn logic circuit.
Oh, wow. Just picture that.
Yeah, that's a fascinating visual. It really is.
What does that conjure up for you?
A fusion of artistic expression with technological exploration.
Right.
Maybe even a commentary on their relationship.
Exactly. And then when you dive into the actual contents of Wordcrack, it gets even more intriguing.
Okay.
Sci-fi musical called Farstaro Sonante Rave, a rhyming play titled The Box Cutter. Then there's a historical epic poem about Marco Polo.
Interesting.
And then it jumps back into sci-fi with the Seven Ends. It's like a genre-bending smorgasbord. Yeah, it makes me wonder, does he see a connection between these seemingly disparate genres?
That's an excellent point.
Yeah, is he using these different forms of expression to explore a common set of themes or ideas, maybe?
Right. And maybe we'll find some clues as we delve into the excerpts from Cascade Beach Mysteries you shared with us.
Okay.
These two specific tales offer a glimpse into his storytelling style and the recurring themes.
Okay.
So are you ready to dive into that first story, Vacan's Lot?
Absolutely. Let's see what Joe has in store for us.
All right, so the story opens with our protagonist, Oma, delivering newspapers, and he's dealing with this annoying itch on his back.
Okay.
And going through this hilarious inner monologue about possible medical diagnoses,
Yeah, I hate when I get an itch I can't reach.
Right.
So relatable.
And the way Joe injects humor into it is brilliant.
Oh, for sure.
Like the part where he uses a giant crochet needle to scratch his back, and Mrs. Akomo's cat tries to swat at it. I mean,
Oh, my God.
pure comedic gold.
That's great.
But then almost out of nowhere, the tone shifts.
Okay.
Mrs. Akomo casually asks Oma about his summer plans, whether he'll be going to the beach, and suddenly this sense of foreboding creeps in.
Interesting.
It's like the mention of the beach triggers something in Oma.
Right.
And we're thrown into this flashback to his friend Ra drowning at Thunder Caves 5 years earlier.
Oh, wow.
You can feel the weight of that memory, the unresolved grief.
Yeah.
And the excerpt ends with Oma receiving this mysterious letter.
Oh, no.
The whole atmosphere is heavy with unease.
Right.
Like, what secrets does this letter hold? What happened to Oma?
That's a classic cliffhanger.
I know. But before we jump into that second excerpt, which seems to shed light on that drowning incident,
Okay.
let's pause for a moment.
Sure.
What stands out to you about his writing style so far?
Well, he has a knack for seamlessly blending humor and suspense.
Yeah?
One minute you're chuckling at Oma's antics with the crochet needle,
Right.
and the next you're on the edge of your seat feeling the pull of this tragic past event.
Absolutely. And it's all done with such a natural conversational tone.
Yeah, you feel like you're right there with Oma,
Right.
experiencing it alongside him.
But I'm dying to find out what happened at Thunder Caves.
Yeah, me too.
So let's move on to that second excerpt, The Ghost of Thunder Cave.
Sounds intriguing.
Okay, so this time we're presented with a rhyming poem that tells this tale of adventure and tragedy. It introduces us to 3 friends, Jim, Ollie, and Catharissa,
Okay.
who also go by these nicknames, Otter, Thera, and importantly, Ra.
Ra.
Does that name ring a bell?
It certainly does.
Yeah.
It seems like this is the same Ra who drowned in Vacan's lot,
Exactly.
suggesting this story might delve into the events leading up to that tragedy.
You got it. And the way he tells the story through this rhythmic, almost lyrical poem is captivating.
Yeah.
You're drawn into the adventure of these friends exploring the Thunder Caves, which is a series of these interconnected sea caves, right? But as the tide starts to turn against them, you can feel this tension building,
Right.
the sense of impending danger.
Oh, no.
And then it happens, Catharissa gets trapped inside one of the caves as the tide rises.
It's like you can feel the water closing in around her.
It's a heart-stopping moment.
Yeah.
Jim, desperate to save his friend, tries to free her, but he ends up being swept out to sea himself.
Oh, gosh.
We're led to believe he's dead, lost to the unforgiving ocean. But wait, there's a twist.
Okay.
Jim manages to survive thanks to a helpful seal.
A seal?
Yeah, I know, right?
Whoa.
He even goes back to the caves to retrieve this necklace Catharissa had asked him to save.
Oh, wow.
Imagine the courage
I know.
to face that terrifying place again.
Yeah, it really speaks to the depth of their friendship.
Right. It's a testament to their bond.
Mm-hmm.
But sadly, it's all for naught.
Really?
Yeah. A double funeral is held for both Jim and Catharissa, even though Jim is still alive.
Oh, that's so sad.
It's a tragic ending filled with layers of loss and what-ifs.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a powerful story that explores the themes of friendship, loss, guilt, and the overwhelming power of the ocean.
Right.
And I can't help but notice this contrast between the lighthearted adventure at the beginning and this sudden shift into dark, heart-wrenching tragedy.
Exactly. It mirrors that tonal shift we saw in that previous excerpt, doesn't it?
It does.
It's like he's intentionally playing with this juxtaposition of light and dark,
Right.
joy and sorrow.
Yeah, I wonder if this reflects a broader theme in his work.
Ooh.
Maybe a commentary on the unpredictable nature of life.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll uncover more about his thematic choices as we continue.
Hopefully.
But before we move on,
Yeah.
I want to turn our attention back to that AI-generated promotional letter.
Okay.
There's a specific line that caught my eye, and I think it might hold a clue about Joe's intentions with these stories.
All right.
Remember how it mentioned his extensive music career?
Yes.
Over 100 albums, even toured North America? Well, the line that struck me comes right after that.
Okay.
It says, "Note, the poetry in this book stands apart from Joe's AI ventures, and it was mostly crafted before the era of GPT."
So they felt the need to clarify that these poems were created by a human and not a machine.
Right. It's a curious addition.
It is.
You have to wonder why they felt it was necessary to make that distinction.
Yeah, especially since the letter itself was written by AI,
Yeah.
presumably to highlight his work.
Yeah,
It's almost like the AI is saying, hey, look, this guy's legit.
exactly. You'd think the AI would be all about showcasing the possibilities of AI-generated content.
Right.
So why draw this line in the sand?
I don't know. It's very strange.
Yeah.
Maybe it reflects a broader anxiety about the role of AI in creative fields.
Yeah, like there's this growing concern that AI could devalue or even replace human artistry.
Right.
So by explicitly stating that Joe's poetry predates the rise of GPT, the AI is trying to reassure us this work is authentically human, right?
Yeah, like a preemptive defense against accusations of AI involvement.
Yep.
Or maybe it's highlighting the evolution of his creative journey. The letter emphasizes his early adoption of technology, mentioning his work with chatbots in the 80s.
Right.
But then it draws a clear distinction between those early tech explorations and his poetry, almost as if to say, this is where the human touch truly shines.
That makes me think about the recurring theme of drowning in these excerpts. We've got Ra drowning in Vacan's lot,
Right.
and then Catharissa, also known as Ra, drowning in the Ghost of Thunder Cave. And remember, the AI letter mentions Joe lives in a coastal town. Do you think there's a personal connection there?
Yeah.
Is he drawing from real-life experiences to fuel these narratives?
It's certainly possible. The specificity of the setting, the recurring theme of drowning, it makes you wonder if these stories are in some way a reflection of his own life.
Right.
You know, his own relationship with the ocean.
It adds another layer of depth to these stories, doesn't it?
It does.
Knowing that there might be this real-life element woven into the fiction,
Yeah. It makes me want to go back and reread those excerpts, looking for those subtle hints of personal experience.
I agree.
And it also makes me think about the power of storytelling itself, whether it's based on real events or purely fictional.
Right.
A well-crafted story can transport us to another world, make us feel deeply, and even help us process our own experiences.
I think that's the beauty of art in general.
Right.
It allows us to connect with something larger than ourselves.
Speaking of processing experiences,
Yeah.
these stories are pretty heavy.
Right.
Dealing with themes of loss, guilt, and the fragility of life. But even amidst the tragedy, there's this glimmer of hope.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Jim's survival, his connection with the seal,
Right.
the fact that he was able to go back to the caves and retrieve the necklace.
Yeah, those moments offer a sense of resilience.
I love how you put that.
It's almost like a touch of magic.
A touch of magic. It reminds me of how Joe effortlessly blends these different genres and styles.
We've got realism mixed with these fantastical elements, humor juxtaposed with this deep sorrow.
It's like he's refusing to be confined by any single genre or label.
Right.
He just takes what he needs from each and weaves them together to create something entirely unique.
And it makes me wonder about those early chatbots he built.
Oh yeah, what were they like?
Were they simple text-based programs, or was he pushing the boundaries even back then?
Yeah, I'd love to know what his vision was for this technology.
Right.
What kind of interactions he was trying to create.
Me too. It's like this missing piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about how much technology has advanced since then. We've gone from those early text-based chatbots to AI that can write promotional letters, even generate creative content.
Right. It raises so many questions about the future of creativity.
Yeah.
Will AI become a collaborative partner for artists?
Uh-huh.
Will it fundamentally change the way we create and consume art?
Those are some big questions.
They are.
And I don't think there are any easy answers.
Right. But what's exciting is that we're living in a time where these questions are being explored.
Yeah.
And the boundaries between human and machine are becoming increasingly blurred.
And Joe Omnibus seems to be right at the forefront of this exploration.
He does, doesn't he?
Embracing both the human and the technological, the traditional and the cutting edge.
It's like he's a walking paradox.
I know.
A science teacher who writes poetry.
Right.
A musician who builds chatbots.
Uh-huh.
A storyteller who blurs the lines between reality and fiction.
And his work invites us to embrace those contradictions, to see the beauty in the unexpected and to recognize the boundless potential of human creativity.
It's a powerful message.
It is.
And one that I think resonates deeply in today's world.
Absolutely. But I'm curious, what about these excerpts resonated most with you? What stood out as particularly insightful or thought-provoking?
Well, for me, it's the way Joe captures the power of place. The ocean is almost a character in these stories.
Yeah.
Both beautiful and menacing, a source of both life and death.
And it makes me wonder about the significance of the Thunder Caves themselves.
Yeah.
They're described as these interconnected sea caves, almost like a labyrinth beneath the waves.
That labyrinthine quality could be symbolic, don't you think?
Oh, totally.
It might represent the complexities of human relationships, the hidden depths of our emotions, or even the mysteries of life and death.
You're totally onto something there.
Yeah.
And it ties back to the idea of Joe exploring these universal themes through his unique blend of genres and styles. He's taking something familiar, like a coming-of-age story or a tale of adventure, and infusing it with these deeper layers of meaning.
It's like he's inviting us to look beyond the surface.
Yeah.
To question our assumptions and to find the extraordinary within the ordinary.
And he's doing it in a way that's both entertaining and thought-provoking.
Yeah, you're never quite sure what to expect next.
Right.
But you know it's going to be a wild ride.
It's like he's giving us just enough information to pique our curiosity, but leaving the rest open to interpretation.
I see.
And that's what makes for a truly engaging reading experience, right?
Absolutely. It's a collaborative process between the author and the reader, each bringing their own experiences and perspectives to the table.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Joe Omnibus, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this conversation?
I hope they're inspired to seek out Joe's work and experience it for themselves.
Right.
Wordcrack is just a small sample of his vast creative output.
Exactly.
And who knows what other treasures they might uncover as they delve deeper into his world.
I couldn't agree more. And remember, this deep dive has only scratched the surface.
Yeah.
There's so much more to discover in Joe's stories, his music, his art, his
Yeah.
unique approach to blending technology and creativity. So keep exploring, keep questioning,
Uh-huh.
and keep those creative sparks flying.